The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Hi folks, today on Aging Horizons, we're going to be talking about VOA, which is Volunteers of America. And this is a great organization that's been in service 125 years across the nation. It looks a little different in each state, and today we have a great guest with us. We're going to talk about how VOA functions in Montana. Lots to tell you, stay tuned.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare summary notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
45 years, 2 packs a day. It's like $80,000. I thought I was just hurting myself until I fell asleep in a chair with a cigarette. The whole house went up. I lost it all. I knew smoking was expensive, but I never thought it would cost me everything.
The human heart. Even at its strongest, it's a fragile muscle. Chest and arm pain, shortness of breath, are signs of a heart under attack. But 3 numbers can save a life. Dial 911 at the first sign of a heart attack. Quick response from medical experts can save your life.
I was 45 and it happened to me, a heart attack.
Dialing 911 saved Ryan's life. Now he's here and he's healthy.
This message sponsored by Mission Lifeline Montana.
Hi folks, and welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Kimmy Everman, and today we're going to be talking about a great organization, a long-term organization, and a very multifaceted organization in terms of the services they provide. Volunteers of America, and we have with us a great guest today, Danielle, and I'm going to read this out, Godlewski. Yes. And you are the SORE coordinator, yes. SORE. And before we go any further, let's just talk about what that means. What is SORE?
SORE coordination is helping folks get onto Social Security. And it's a special method that helps folks that are a little harder traditionally to get onto Social Security. Folks that have a SDMI diagnosis,
which is
mental illness, severe mental illness, addiction, and they're homeless. Mm-hmm. And those populations traditionally are very hard to serve and hard to get onto Social Security because Social Security does all of their business over the mail and over the phone. And if they don't have an address or a phone number.
And not only is it hard to serve them, but I would imagine that it's hard for them to reach out.
Yes.
And ask for that help, especially when they don't have a place to be necessarily, and they don't have that mail.
Right.
So awesome. That sounds great. And let's also talk about Volunteers of America, because I think I couldn't believe it was 125
Yes.
years old. I just think that's wonderful. As I told you off camera, I worked as a CNA for Volunteers of America years ago, and it just was such a surprise to hear that it's still functioning and still really giving some great service. But let's talk about, Danielle, how it kind of looks and what Volunteers of America is as an organization, because across the nation is different than maybe in Montana.
Yes.
What that looks like. Can you speak to that a little?
Volunteers of America is a very well-kept secret.
Yeah, best in town. Yep.
It was started in 1896 by the Booth brothers. And if the last name of Booth sounds familiar, it should. William Booth was the founder of Salvation Army.
Oh.
And he started in England. His sons came over to America in the 1800s and decided to start the Salvation Army here in America. And they and their wives began ministering to the impoverished people, the forgotten strata of civilization. We had the Gilded Age going on and all of that.
Of course.
They also had the disparity, the impoverished folks, and the populations that had no help. There was no social services back then.
Right.
And after a little while, they got into a philosophical bit of difference, and they decided to part ways. Bromwell took Salvation Army, and Bollington created Volunteers of America.
Okay, first of all, I want to know two people named Bromwell, and what was the other one?
Bollington.
Bollington. Okay. Sorry, just a little interjection there.
Yes.
So go ahead.
So Bollington created Volunteers of America, and it's very much patterned after Salvation Army. It's a faith-based organization, and they administered to widows, to orphans, to addicts, to single people, to just straight out impoverished people. And the big difference of philosophy was they administered to incarcerated folks.
Oh, boy, I bet at the beginning, that was a big deal.
That was. Nobody else. Nobody else wanted to deal with those folks.
Okay, so that's sort of across America and how it began and such. How does it look in Montana?
In Montana, there's a bunch of different social services all over the nation, but in Montana, primarily we concentrate on working with veterans, and especially homeless veterans.
Okay.
Montana has a huge population of veterans.
Yes.
And so Volunteers of America, Northern Rockies, concentrates on those veterans.
And just, in a sort of a quick nutshell, what kinds of things are you're helping them get onto Social Security?
Yes, that's my role. The other folks help people with housing, and they help them with employment, and healthcare navigation.
Okay. Sounds great. Glad to hear about it. And folks, you might be like me. I had no idea that this organization was functioning still and doing such great work out there. And we really we want you to know all about what they're doing and how they're helping support our Montana veterans. They have, it sounds like, tons of services. We're going to talk about those when we come back, and we're going to talk about how they are out there supporting our veterans, especially our homeless veterans. We have a lot more to talk about. Stay with us.
think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. At least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
I was the last guy you'd expect to get diabetes. I was a competitive runner and I always took care of myself. So when I was diagnosed, it kind of threw me. But it's really encouraging to know I'm not alone with it. There are a lot of other people going through the same things as I am. It takes some effort. You have to keep after it. Exercise, meds, and diet are the key. But there are a lot of folks who want me to succeed. Diabetes is not the end of the world. With effort and attitude, you can have a normal life.
Flight 109, is that Evel Knievel on the runway?
Whoa, Daredevil. You need a Montana Real ID to fly. Go to mtrealid.gov to make an appointment.
Looks easier than jumping a canyon.
Smile. I see you changed your name from Robert to Evil. Did you bring your name change documentation?
I'm not trying to pull a stunt. Got the paperwork right there.
Go to mtrealid.gov.
Now I can fly. It's that easy.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're here with Danielle Godlewski today, talking about Volunteers of America, how it looks across the nation as well as how it looks here in Montana. Great to have you, Danielle. So glad that you're here. So let's just dive right in, because in Montana, as you mentioned earlier, the VOA's focus is really veterans, and a lot of times homeless veterans, correct?
Yes.
So let's talk about that. First of all, what kinds of services, what kinds of resources might be available through VOA?
If we have a veteran come in through our door, the services that we have to offer the veteran are first and foremost a program called SSVF, which is Supportive Services for Veteran Families. Okay. And through that program, we can help the homeless or at-risk veterans. If the veteran comes in with an eviction notice, hey, I've got to get out in 2 weeks or 30 days, we can help them either pay back rent to the person so that they can maintain their housing. We can help put them up in emergency housing in some circumstances. And I'm talking about the veteran as well as their family.
Right.
We can also assist with paying back utilities if that's going to be a problem. We can help with many other little things, like maybe helping them with a phone, helping them with car repairs, helping them with child care costs, anything to stabilize that veteran and or his or her family.
Yeah, and those aren't even little, those are huge. I mean, really, don't shortchange yourself, because those are huge issues. I mean, just the car itself, think about how if you don't have that in a minute and a half, you can't go to work. And then pretty soon you lose your job. And there you are, you're homeless.
Right. Most of us, unfortunately, are a paycheck away or 2 paychecks away from being homeless.
Yeah.
The other big service that we have is called HVRP, and it's Homeless Veteran Reintegration Program.
Okay.
That grant is through the Department of Labor, and it helps folks get employment. Mm-hmm. We can help them with
reintegration.
Okay. We can help them with lists of jobs. We can help them write a resume. We can help them again with a phone. We can help them again possibly with car repairs. Mm-hmm. And that program is for a veteran specifically.
Okay. And could we, Danielle, just for a second, could we talk about that word reintegration? What does that mean in this grand scheme of things?
A lot of the folks that we get maybe haven't had a home for years, and they are tired of camping out, they're tired of the shelters, and they just want a place to land.
Right.
And so the reintegration is getting them back into recovery, back into society, back into the swing of things.
Right. And that support is so important. These, as you said, these are folks who may not have had a home for a very long time. And to just turn around and have it might be very overwhelming.
Yes.
And very difficult for a person to get through on their own.
Things move fast and things change. Resumes, the way resumes are done today is different than the way they were done a few years ago.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the, to me, that's a biggie, is that support of the things that are just going to get that person back on track, and as you said, back in the swing of things.
Yes.
And how does a veteran find you? If let's say we have someone watching today who says, I think that I might be eligible for some of those services. What should they do?
To be eligible for our services, we do have an income limit. They have to be low income.
Sure.
They also need to have been at least 1 day of active duty.
Gotcha.
And they have to have a different than dishonorable discharge.
So does that mean they can have a general discharge?
They can have a general discharge.
Okay. And then and this might be outside of your realm, so if so, I apologize, but I know that sometimes those discharges can be changed.
Yes.
So would you guys be able to send that person maybe out to one of the service officers at Fort Harrison or something to get that process going?
We do regularly. We have a healthcare navigator, and that's one of the things that he can do. He can help the folks that come in navigate through the VA administration, which is, onerous.
Daunting to say the least, yeah. So that's so great, to know that there might be that possibility that they can change that around, because without at least a general discharge, you can find yourself without access to everything that normally you would as a veteran. So, that sounds wonderful. Folks, this is a program that is so important. Again, you know me, I love our veterans, and I love working with them, and I think they're an extremely important population, and we need to be there for them to step up and support them. Freedom is not free. Come on back.
I have so many questions about power of attorney.
Well, some powers of attorney are for finances and others are for healthcare decisions.
A power of attorney designates an agent who would make decisions on your behalf.
While making a power of attorney, you have the ability to control your agent's power.
You also have the ability to decide when that POA would take effect.
Wait, am I giving away all my rights?
Power of attorney isn't a license to make any decision for you, just those that you've specified.
Your agent should be somebody that's working in your best interest, but it should also be somebody that you would trust.
What if they try to abuse their power?
Protective measures like third-party accounting, secondary signatures, defined spending and gifting limits can help protect against financial exploitation. An agent's powers can always be limited by a customized power of attorney, and they can be revoked by you or the court if the power of attorney is abused.
So carefully drafted estate planning documents can help ensure that your finances are monitored, but not abused.
If you or someone you know is being exploited, please report to Aging Services Bureau at 844-277-9300 or the Legal Service Developer at 1-800-332-2272. This message sponsored by the DPHHS Aging Service Bureau.
Respite. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. Will you provide it?
The hard part about having outside help is that there's not a lot of people out there who can do that kind of work. We've been very fortunate that our Bonnie has been with us for 7 years. I don't know what I'd do without her. I need her in our lives. She's our second mother. And I can't help but think of her that way.
To find out how to change lives, including your own, call 800-224-6034 or visit respite.mt.gov.
Did you just text me?
I didn't want to disturb you if you were sleeping.
Sleeping? I'm sitting right next to you, silly.
There you are. Hey, I found a couple of Medicare helping programs online that I think we ought to look into.
It says if we qualify, we can get help paying for our prescription drugs. Oh, and there's a program that can help pay our Part B premium. To learn more about extra help and Medicare savings programs, call your local SHIP counselor today.
Maybe I better text him.
Hi folks, welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're here with Danielle Godlewski today, and we're talking about VOA, which is the Volunteers of America. Super organization, 125 years old, and in Montana, doing a super job of supporting not only veterans, but in specific, homeless veterans. Danielle, glad to have you. I've learned so much today, and again, love the fact that the VOA is working so hard on veteran issues in Montana. Now, there is one acronym that we want to talk about, and we'll explain what it is. It's called GPD, which is you talk about it.
It stands for Grant Per Diem, and it's a program administered through the VA, and it allows homeless veterans to have up to 2 years of housing in a shelter.
Wow.
And to take part in the programs that the shelter offers to help them get back into having a home and society. And we have a GPD home in Billings, and it's called Independence Hall.
And let's just sort of move then into a really important topic, which is the SOAR. And we want to talk about that process so that everybody can really feel comfortable with, if they need to reach out to you or to your organization, they'll know what to do. So let's jump in.
Okay. I am the SOAR coordinator for the whole state of Montana through VOA. So I cover, right now, I am covering all the way from Eureka to Broadus. And I got my first referral in Sydney recently, so I'm going to be all over the place.
Yes, you are. So what's the process?
The SOAR process is, with VOA, I get referrals from folks that, from coordinators that are working the SSVF program. So if somebody comes in homeless.
Okay, wait, let's say SSVF means?
Supportive Services for Veteran Families.
Thank you, go ahead.
And if they don't have an income and they have a diagnosis that prevents them from going back to work, I get the referral. I do a brief intake to get an idea of what the claim might look like. And then since I have to cover all of Montana, we do a lot of things over the phone. So we fill in a lot of the paperwork over the phone. And then one thing about SOAR is, one critical component is I do an interview with the folks, and it's a very lengthy interview, covering all the way from family of origin, all the way through any substance use, occupation, their military, what happened to them during the military, their day-to-day functioning. I write a very long report, and I pull their medical records, and I reference their medical records and diagnoses in my report, and it's called a medical summary report, which I submit to Social Security. And hoping to paint a very vivid picture of the person's struggles and why they can't work. Then we file, And that's usually when I meet them in person. We try to file online or we file on paper.
Okay.
And then at that point, Social Security then hops in the driver's seat, and I try to support the process. I act as liaison between Social Security and the vet or the vet's family members, because sometimes it's hard for them. Like I said, if they don't have a mailing address or a phone number, I usually know how to get a hold of them, and I help with paperwork outside of that.
Well, and I think that it isn't just in that subject anyway. It isn't just not having maybe a mailbox or an address. The whole process of going through to get your Social Security can be, again, very daunting.
Yes.
And so when you're supporting a homeless veteran in that way, are they able to? You do this long interview, I guess, and I think that's really, really important. And I think, are people really grateful that they can have that support? And
yes, because when folks do it on their own, they don't know about the process, they don't know about the paperwork that's needed, and a lot of time they just wander away from it.
Exactly, and it's almost as if there's an obstacle being put in their place, and so your service can help support them through a pretty scary, weird sort of sequence of events and information that they have to pull together. And I think, I bet you have a great amount of folks that are really happy that they've got somebody to help them out.
Yes.
Because I know that at the Office on Aging, a lot of times our calls are about, can you help me fill out an application?
It's daunting for people who don't have that ability, and especially for people who are extremely mentally ill, it's very hard.
Well, and they certainly don't have the laptops and that sort of thing. So
and the language.
Exactly. Well, Danielle, it's just been wonderful having you here today, and I hope you'll come back and see us again. Great information, and folks, if you have anybody in mind that could help, give a call, and Danielle will be happy to help. For Aging Horizons, I'm Kimmy Everman.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.